all you esoteric scholars out there. This is the Esoteric Scholar. So today we're going to do something a little different. This is a deck that I have utilized throughout my career. Gosh, I've probably had this deck maybe 10 years now. Try to get a better picture here. Alright. So it's been used. You can tell it's been used. Very much so. But this is the Easy Tarot deck, is what they call it. And the reason why is because the symbolism is more basic. It's more for intuition, whereas the Hermetic Tarot was straight, raw, in-your-face symbolism. You should know the symbolism before you start it. It's more for the advanced. This, as the name says, is for the amateur, the beginner, somebody who's just getting into this. And you can see with the Hangman here, you don't have a lot of the deeper symbolism in the background. You have the overall arching theme of him being hung, but you don't have a lot of the details in the symbolism. Let me actually get one to compare. Hold on. Alright, so I went through and got some from several of my decks, and here is one. This is the Rider-Waite deck. This is your go-to. This is what most people start out with and what they use. You can see with this one, the symbolism is very similar. Not a lot of detail. Both of these are more intuition cards and on what they represent. I'm getting a little off basis here from I just wanted to show the cards, but I want to just kind of show you the Hermetic Tarot. You see the amount of detail is extremely potent. You have to know a lot about it before you can really read with this card, besides the main intuition information. And then our Thoth deck from Mr. Crowley himself, it's kind of a step in between the two. Now, I know Crowley didn't actually design this. I forgot the lady's name who designed this, but he had the influence and assisted her to design it. But you have the Ankh, and then you have the coil bound to the Hanged Man, and then you have the gestures in the palms, you have the crucified body parts, and you have the geometric symbolism. So it's kind of a cross between this where in a scale, in my opinion, these two would be identical, and then this is the next one, and then this one has the most symbolism built into it. So that's kind of a side note. When you want to choose a deck, you want to choose a deck that not only calls to you and has a deeper meaning, but you want to choose a deck that you bond with, that that the symbolism about, because you're gonna have to learn the symbolism for all of these before you start reading. And I'm gonna go into a video about how I do it probably here soon, because my technique seems to be a little bit different than a lot of people's, but I've had good results. Moving on. All right, so here's the Hangman. And then you see the artwork is very, very interesting. I'm trying to do a little bit of a different lighting scheme, so I hope this works. I might put some backlight on here in a second. But you have a very colorful deck, and you notice that the different arcana have one color. I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure they do. And then when you get into, yes, they do. You get into the other decks here, or the Page of Swords, Wands, then you'll get into the Pentacles here in a minute. They'll start to vary off with different colors and different themes. And this is why it's easier, in my opinion, is because you have a symbolism through color. You have an emotion that gets drawn with the card, where you almost feel bonded with it. And that's how you can start pulling the imagery. I've done a lot of reading with this deck, and I absolutely love it. It's my go-to when friends want a quick reading and I want it to be more intuitive. I utilize this deck. One thing, it's fun because I don't need a lot of the cards to kind of get a good reading with this deck. It speaks to me a lot quicker. And funny side note while we're going through these, I had a friend who had a roommate. Both were female. One was married and had a couple kids. The lady who had a couple kids, my friend, who messaged me, asked me to do a reading because she wanted to know if there was something weird about her friend that lived with her. And so I did a quick reading, and I told her that her friend was pregnant, that she was stealing, taking things that didn't belong to her, and that she really didn't have my friend's good intentions in line. She was just kind of using her. And you tell anybody that, they get a little awestruck. Keep in mind, I don't know her friend, and my friend is more of an associate. So she was a little taken back by that. But in the end, she comes back to me a couple days later. She's like, "Oh my God, how did you know that?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, she is pregnant. She is only a couple months pregnant, so she's not even showing yet. And she's been taking my clothes and wearing them when I'm not there to go out with her boyfriend or something like that. I don't remember the exact story now. This is about a year ago. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, you need to kick her out because she's just using you. And she's like, "Oh, I did. And now I'm missing even more stuff." I'm like, yeah, but it's going to get better. And then she asked me about a job. And I told her that she would get a job coming up that would require travel. And this job would take her into a couple different states, and she would get accepted for it. But there would be some obstacles she needed to overcome. Well, she smokes pot. And one of those obstacles was a drug test. I didn't know this at the time. She didn't know this at the time, but she messaged me asking me if she'd passed the drug test. And obviously I didn't need the cards to tell you that that was going to be a no. But it was just interesting how those work. These cards, they live and they breathe. They tell you what is going on at that moment. What is going on shortly before and shortly after that moment. And all of it can change. It can all change. Now, another story about a tarot reading. I was doing it for a buddy of mine back when I was 21. Just getting into it, fairly new. And he wanted me to do a tarot reading. So I go through and we do the shuffle the cards, ask a question. I don't remember his question anymore, but what I remember is going through the cards, and he's kind of awestruck because I was hitting some facts on the head for him. And then I look at him dead in the eye and I say, "You have a daughter that no one else knows about. No one in this room, not even me. You have a daughter." And he got white-faced. I mean, just so white-faced, like he was about to just like pass out like he's seen a ghost. And my God, he's like, "How did you fucking know that?" Oh, sorry. "How did you know that?" he said. And I was like, "It's in the cards, man. They spoke to me. They told me." And he's like, "I have not told anybody that." And he had like a 2-year-old daughter down in Texas at the time. And they got people in the room. I remember one girl in the back was like, "So-and-so, you have a child that you never told us about?" And he's like, "Well, I'm telling you now." It was funny. But no, the cards don't lie. Especially if you start getting the intuition and you bond with them. They'll tell you everything you need to know. Oh, I got a lot more stories like that. But that's probably for another time. The deck's almost done. And I'm going to turn these more into story hour. Well, it depends. We'll see how it goes. Because I got a lot of good stories about the esoteric. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful deck. I love this part of the deck because you have the mechanic moon, and it's very symbolic of the moon, and it's easy as well because you can know in a way what it's trying to tell you and how it functions. I would venture to say that with this deck, if you could clear your mind before doing a reading, you could probably jump into this deck and do a reading without having to really dig into the symbolism. It helps. It always helps to go into what are wands and why the 9 of Wands is the way it is and why the man is kneeling down. And we'll do another video where I talk about what I do when I read a card. I'm a little unorthodox with it, but I've had some really good, accurate readings. I've also had some really, really off-the-wall ones, but that kind of depends on the person. I find that if not just the person, it depends on my mood too. If I'm forced into a question, I won't do it no matter how much I want to. It won't come out right. But if the person is sincere and has faith in the situation, they have to let me in to the situation. Let's put it that way. That's why I don't do it at parties anymore. Like that one with the buddy and the kid, that was kind of at a party or a gathering. I don't do that anymore. People freak out. Not freak out, but their view of it affects my view, and I can't work through it very much with them. Knight of Swords. Conquer. This one always used to come up a lot in my readings, and it made sense in hindsight. I can't read for myself either. You'll hear that. You'll hear that a lot. People can read for everyone else in the world and be highly accurate. They go to read for themselves. You have a natural bias. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what your subconscious wants you to say because you're influenced with wanting to avoid bad cards and wanting to avoid bad situations. But here it is. This is the Easy Tarot, and this is a deck I have used a lot. I recommend it, especially for beginners.